from the start. Wiggins again. Here's Curry for the record. It's good! And there it is! Stephen Curry!
Tried to make the most of it. Come back, bottle this up. Everybody make the right strides, take advantage of the summer, and don't want to see us next year.
For the Golden State Warriors return to a familiar place. They're on top of the NBA world. The fourth title in 8 years.
The things that Steph Curry has achieved are unreal. No player has influenced the game of basketball like he has. Very few players in the history of the NBA have contributed to their team's championships like Curry has. But what if all of this ceased to exist? It sounds crazy, right? What if Steph Curry decided, this basketball thing really isn't for me at a young age? How would the Warriors look? How would his competition look? And most importantly, how would the league look? Do you want to make money? Are you into sports like I am? Then online sports betting may be something for you. Our friends over at BetUS make sports betting fun and easy. BetUS is one of the most well-known sports books online. You can bet on many different sports like basketball, football, baseball, and more. If you're interested in this, go bet on all of your favorite teams with the link in the description. I think to no one's surprise, the whole landscape of the NBA would look completely different without Steph Curry. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. Let's start it off with draft day. Steph Curry was drafted in 2009 with the 7th overall pick in the first round. If Curry never existed, we would see the Warriors draft another guard instead. As we can see from some of the later picks the Warriors had to select, there were guys like DeMar DeRozan, Brandon Jennings, Gerald Henderson, and more. DeMar DeRozan wouldn't have been a bad substitution for Curry, but you have to remember the Warriors' best player at the time was Monte Ellis, so they weren't going to pick another shooting guard. Because the Warriors at the time were looking for a point guard, we can eliminate every other position. So that means the Warriors would have either picked Brandon Jennings, Drew Holiday, Ty Lawson, Jeff Teague, Eric Maynor, or Darren Collison. I think it's safe to say that the Warriors would have probably picked Brandon Jennings. Brandon Jennings wasn't even bad in his first few years in the league. He looked like a promising young point guard for the Bucks. When you compare the two players' numbers against each other, it doesn't even look that bad for Jennings. Besides Jennings' lack of efficiency compared to Curry, Jennings is still in the same ballpark as Curry. Well, that's until Brandon Jennings tore his ACL in 2015. This pretty much ended his career in the NBA. After this injury, he was floating around with other teams, but nowhere where he could call his home. Then eventually in 2018 and 2019, he decided to quit from the NBA and play overseas. So, if Steph Curry ceased to exist, the Warriors would have most likely drafted Brandon Jennings. After drafting him, the team wouldn't really see any noticeable differences during the first few years. The team still would have been struggling during those first few years. If hypothetically Brandon Jennings still suffered that same injury, the Warriors would have been nowhere near the same. Steph Curry was able to elevate this team to a multiple championship winning team. Steph Curry was the main piece in the Warriors' unbeatable three-point centered system. It was because of Steph Curry that this system was able to work so well. Curry is irreplaceable for the Warriors. If it were Brandon Jennings instead, this team obviously wouldn't see anywhere near the same success. The Warriors probably would have had 1 or 2 decent years in 2013 and 2014, where they would have been a playoff team, but that's really it. The team would have fallen apart, because like we said, Jennings would have gotten injured in 2015, so you could count out that season. And then after that, the team would have been in chaos. And that probably would have resulted in the Warriors trading away some of their young crucial players at the time, like Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Harrison Barnes. So pretty much the Warriors from 2015 to 2018 would have been dismantled and labeled as a failed rebuild. The Warriors would have had 4 less championships than they do now. They would have 3 total franchise championships rather than 7. The absence of Steph Curry would obviously have catastrophic effects for players on the Warriors and their opponents. Let's start with the Warriors. Klay Thompson would have 0 rings and probably be known as a decent role player that can shoot. Klay Thompson would be put in the same discussions as players like Eric Bledsoe or maybe CJ McCollum. Pretty good role players that can shoot. If you thought it was bad for Klay Thompson, Draymond Green's case is 10 times worse. Draymond Green is perhaps the luckiest player in NBA history. Draymond Green was drafted to an already somewhat successful team. Draymond Green's game fit perfect with the small ball style the Warriors were using. Because Draymond Green had two of the best shooters of all time around him, there was less pressure around him to score the ball, meaning he could do what he does best, which is creating plays for Curry and Thompson, and eventually Kevin Durant down the line. There would literally be a day and night difference of how we view Draymond Green if he were never placed in this perfect of a system. I honestly don't even know if Draymond Green would still be in the league if it weren't for the Splash Brothers. I know it may sound like a stretch looking at the Warriors' success with Curry, but I can't see Draymond Green successfully fitting in with any other team on any other system and being effective. Don't get me wrong here. Curry and Thompson needed Draymond Green for their championships. Green was a crucial part of their 4 rings. Curry needed Draymond Green, but Draymond needed Curry a whole lot more. Anyways, if Klay and Draymond weren't winning championships every year, Klay would only have 1 or 2 All-Star appearances, and Draymond Green would have 0. Neither of them would be getting any Hall of Fame talks. To sum it all up, if Curry didn't exist, these 2 players' legacies would be ruined. Now, let's look at another player that would be affected, but not a night and day like the previous 2, Kevin Durant. If Steph Curry was never in the NBA, it would affect KD positively and negatively. Let's start off with the good. KD would have probably given the Thunder a few more years. Kevin Durant would have a couple more finals appearances with the Thunder. There's even a chance that KD could have won a chip with OKC. Let's go over this. In 2015, the Thunder didn't make the playoffs, and in 2016, they took the Warriors to 7 games in the Western Conference Finals. So the Thunder would have almost certainly made it in 2016. I think they would have also made it in 2017. Russell Westbrook was the MVP that year, and KD would have stuck around. There's even a chance they could have made it in 2018. To top it all off, Kevin Durant would look less like the villain of the NBA because there wouldn't be a stacked Warriors team to join. I do believe KD would still have joined some other really good team, but it wouldn't have had the same magnitude of him joining the Warriors now. If KD were to get a ring with the Thunder, it would mean a whole lot more than the 2 rings he has with the Warriors. Okay, now let's go over the negative. KD would most likely have 0 rings. KD would most likely not win with the Thunder or the next team he would choose to join. He would most likely join the category of superstars that don't have a ring like James Harden, Carmelo Anthony, Damian Lillard, or Chris Paul. This would damage his legacy in its own negative and even weird ways. Now, let's look at the elephant in the room. The player that I know you guys are waiting for me to talk about, LeBron James. I think LeBron James's GOAT case would be even stronger. LeBron would add an extra 2 championships under his belt in 2015 and 2017. So LeBron would three-peat with the Cavs in 2015, 16, and 17. Then in 2017, we'll say the same drama between Kyrie and LeBron happens, and Kyrie leaves the Cavs. If LeBron three-peats with the Cavs and has 6 championships, I think it's hard to call someone else the GOAT. So in a way, Steph Curry is really just protecting the argument of MJ versus LeBron as the GOAT. Finally, we're going to look at 2 more players, James Harden and Jason Tatum. We'll start with Harden. I believe with no Steph Curry in the league, James Harden has a ring. The Houston Rockets took the Warriors to 7 games in the 2018 Western Conference Finals. I believe the Rockets would have beaten the 2018 Cavs with just LeBron. I also believe Jason Tatum would have a ring in a Curry-less NBA. The 2022 NBA Finals would have been the Dallas Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics. 2 really young teams, but the Mavs would have lost because of a lack of help around Luka. Now the last part are the MVPs. Steph Curry won 2 MVPs in 2016 and 2015. If Curry wasn't around, the 2015 MVP would have probably went to James Harden, and the 2016 MVP would have been LeBron James's. Now, the championships and MVPs are all fun to speculate around, but I think we're ignoring the real elephant in the room. Without Steph Curry, what effects would it have on the league as a whole, or basketball in general? Around 2015, the Warriors created a super innovative and one-of-a-kind system that allowed them to stomp over any competition. The system was centralized around three-point shooting, which had never been seen before. More specifically, getting Curry and Thompson as many shots as possible. This had never been seen before. No one at the time thought you could win multiple championships without even touching the paint. Because this style of basketball was so successful for the Warriors, many teams around the league started to shoot more and more threes, hoping this would give them the same success. Right here we have a graph of the average NBA three-point attempts per game for a team. The numbers from 2000 to 2012 look pretty stagnant. There's really no significant changes here, but that's until we look at the years from 2013 to 2023. From the last decade of basketball we've witnessed, we've seen the amount of three-point attempts skyrocket. The league is shooting more than 2.5 times more threes than we were 2 decades ago. Is there any coincidence that the same year the boom in three-pointers happened in 2013 is the same year as Steph Curry's numbers started to go off? From the 2012 to 2013 season, Curry shot up his points per game over 8 points and took 3 more threes per game. The Golden State Warriors also made a 28-win increase from that season. Another similar chart as the first one shows the three-point attempt rate, so the percentage that a shot a player takes is a three-pointer. The numbers look nearly identical as before. After looking at those previous charts, it really brings up another question. Has the NBA improved at shooting? Is that the reason why we're seeing this? Well, actually no. According to the numbers, the league average for three-point percentage has varied from around 34 to 37% over the last 23 years. I found this somewhat surprising. I would have thought the league as a whole would have improved their percentage. The drastic rise of the volume of three-pointers taken really comes down to one player, Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. Not once have we seen a player have this amount of influence over how the game is played. Not Jordan, not Kobe, not Wilt, not anyone. The reason why I showed you guys those charts is to give you context for the preceding data. If Steph Curry ceased to exist, these numbers would look a little different. If Curry never played basketball, the numbers would look more like this, a more steady increase rather than a big boom of increase. In a league without Curry, in 2023, the league would have had a 27.6% three-point attempt rate instead of 38.9%. Or in other words, we would see about 11 or 12 less three-pointers from each team per game. That's a huge change. As the sport of basketball continues to develop, the players are going to become more skilled over time. With or without Curry, I think it's inevitable that there's going to be some increase of offense, meaning an increase in three-pointers taken. It's just the natural progression of the game. We saw it in the years before Curry, but Steph and his 30-foot bombs have pretty much sped up the effects of improving offense. Without Curry, we wouldn't have seen this much volume of three-pointers for at least another 10 or 20 years down the road. But Steph Curry sped up time for his own benefit. An NBA without Steph Curry would without a doubt look very different. I chose to make a video about Steph Curry rather than any other great like Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, or Kareem, because no one has influenced the game like Steph Curry has. Without Steph Curry in our NBA, the history that was created would look a lot different. No Splash Brothers, LeBron would have 6 rings, James Harden would have a ring and 3 finals appearances, but most important, shooting, but more specifically three-point shooting, would be a whole lot more sparse. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like these.